If seeing Kevin finally escape the Trails dungeon and return as a main character has you excited,
And it's nice to meet you too, Mr. Onion Ham.
It's Kevin Graham. Kevin Graham.
if hearing nicknames for every other character is your jam,
The Almighty Conflagration and the Oathbreaker. Imaginator. Heard you and the Blade Lord.
and seeing Lapis rating various characters' names with her scoring system,
Definitely a 69 on the cuteness index.
My name scored an 85.
Just had to rub it in, didn't you?
and hoping that this game washes the bad taste of Trails Through Daybreak 2, then Trails Beyond the Horizon is the game for you. Now the real question is whether Trails Beyond the Horizon is finally the payoff that fans have been waiting for. And that's a valid question. After all, we're in the 13th game of the series, and there's a lot of hype and expectations of this game, as many thought that this would be the payoff game. Since this is the third game in the Calvard arc, fans came into Horizons expecting to finally see some big story reveals and push the narrative to new heights. We'll break down if this game delivers on that payoff front. For people watching this video, I'll assume that you're a veteran of the series and have played the previous games. This is not a game for new players at all, as new players jumping directly into this game will instantly be lost, as this video review assumes that you've played the Daybreak games, the Cold Steel arc, Trails in the Reverie, and Trails in the Sky the third. So this video will have some minor spoilers from a lot of those previous titles. With that said, let's first talk about how the game opens up and its three main protagonists. The year 1209. The nation of Calvard is about to launch a spaceship into space, the first in history of Zemuria. Excitement throughout Zemuria is at an all-time high as everyone is talking about the upcoming space event. With that backdrop setting the tone, the game follows three protagonists: Van from Arkwright Solutions, Rean and his friends from the Erebonian Empire, and Kevin from Deception Church, alongside the Picnic Squad from Trails to Reverie. Each group has their own goals in uncovering the truth behind the game's mysteries. And boy, they'll need all that time to accomplish each of their goals, as Trails Beyond the Horizon takes place in just a mere 3 days. Despite the short length of the game's timeline, the game itself is not short at all, as it took me about 130 hours to beat the game, getting around 95% of all things done, and nearly getting the Platinum Trophy. Moving on to the game setup, it's very similar to Trails into Reverie, where the players would switch between the protagonist stories, where it's a 50% Van, 25% Rean, and 25% Kevin split, which makes sense because Van is the main star of the Calvard arc. While I did like Van's path overall, his story starts off quite slow in the beginning, as the first couple acts have a lot of fluff in it with a ton of 4 SPGs. But once you get past those first few acts, Van's story picks up considerably. By contrast, Rean and Kevin's stories are a lot more fast-paced from the start and pulled my attention a lot faster than Van's. And that's because these paths didn't really have that much fluff at all. One thing I did notice is that the three paths don't intersect face-to-face at all. If you're expecting constant crossover between Van, Rean, and Kevin, that won't be in the cards. With Kevin returning after so many games in the Trail series, this is probably one of the biggest announcements of this game. Once news leaked out that Kevin was coming back to Trails Beyond the Horizons and him being on the game's cover, fans got excited. Because for a long time, fans of the series would ask, when's Kevin showing up again? The green-haired onion priest hasn't appeared since Trails to Azure 8 games ago, where he briefly shows up a couple times, but he actually wasn't a main character since his own game 10 games ago, Trails in the Sky the third. In this game, Kevin shines as he builds great chemistry with the Picnic Squad of Rufus, Nadia, Swin, and Lapis. And a lot of the game's best laughs come directly from them. Part of what makes Kevin work so well is that he completely subverts the typical priest archetype. This isn't your soft-spoken, always kind man of the cloth. This is a priest who frequents, let's just say, them naughty clubs. It's a refreshing contrast, and the game leans into it fully. And I thoroughly enjoyed Kevin's mission given to him by the Deception Church and finding out who's the church's new enemy. So what can you expect from the third game in the Calvard arc and the 13th entry of the series? An engaging story that will most likely take at least 100 hours to beat. There are certain characters that get a lot more development, and we're finally seeing the villain's long-term plans being revealed. There's recurring side characters from both Daybreak 1 and 2, as well as side quests that throw it back from the first 2 Daybreak games. Agnes does receive a lot of the spotlight in this game, as well as the ongoing romance triangle of Van, Elaine, and Agnes. For those who are interested in seeing this continue to play out, you can also expect to see Van eat his way through Calvard's dessert scene. In fact, he's now so well known for his sweet tooth that he runs a food blog and is an unofficial food critic, one that restaurants across Calvard actually check up on. Alongside Rean and Kevin's groups, they rate each place with a 1 to 5 star score and leaves short reviews on whatever delicacy the team tries. And since Van's love of sweets have been a running gag since the first Daybreak, it's nice to see the developers lean into it and turn that trait into something more tangible this game. As with the combat, it's still a blast to play, mixing field and combat-based styles, with perhaps its most complex and rewarding battle system in the series. With a couple new additions to the combat system, such as Brave Orders coming back from the earlier titles in the new ZOC system, or Zone of Command, which slows down fighting during field combat, letting you land more hits, dodge incoming attacks easier, and allowing the party to take less damage. Another big change is managing the boost gauge, which in previous games wasn't as important since it was a lot easier to build up and you didn't really use it for as many things. But in Horizons, the boost gauge is a valuable resource as it's used in many commands, and if you're not careful, it's easy to find yourself having an empty gauge. Outside of these changes, the combat is similar to the previous game, Trails Through Daybreak 2, which already had a solid combat system in place. The character bloat is also kept to a minimum in Horizon, where Van's group has a consistent 8 to 10 people, while Rean and Kevin's group have smaller casts ranging anywhere from 4 to 6 on average. One of the bigger problems of earlier titles, especially Trails of Cold Steel 4 and Trails into Reverie, it had a huge character bloat with 40 to 50 people. Trails Beyond the Horizon wisely keeps the cast much smaller, giving each character more room to grow, and makes it a lot easier to not forget anyone. The game has a new VR battleground called the Grim Garden, a sandbox area to grind experience, farm for money, upgrade weapons, and do a few extra activities. This place is quite similar to previous games Marching Garden in Daybreak 2 and the Reverie Corridor in Trails into Reverie. One of the main features of this virtual battleground is gathering all party members from their respective paths into one place. As with the previous 2 games' platforms, the Grim Garden is optional, but does have a bit of side story to it, so it's highly recommended to complete it. And while I do think the Grim Garden is an upgrade from the previous Marching Garden, it's still a far cry from the Reverie Corridor in Trails into Reverie, as the rewards are a lot better while grinding in the Reverie Corridor, and there's just a lot more minigames and a lot more features in Trails into Reverie's Battleground. As for the music in Trails Beyond the Horizons, while I actually thought it was good overall, there wasn't as many memorable tracks or songs that stood out to me. The battle theme, Find the 4 SPG, while not bad at all with its more mellow beats, didn't grab me like Daybreak 1 or 2 songs, and especially the previous Cold Steel and Reverie Arc songs, which had total bangers. Activities in this game include fishing, where you can fish for Sepith, as well as randomly shooting hoops, which, unlike fishing, doesn't have any rewarding features outside of a mention in one of Swin's connection events. And at least in Trails Through Daybreak 2, there was this basketball minigame where you actually had to compete 1v1 versus others. So it's a bit sad that the basketball minigame in Trails Beyond the Horizon actually went backwards. Technology also undergoes a rapid change in this game. As seen from the introduction in Horizons, Calvard is about to launch a spaceship into space, a mere 50 years after the Orbital Revolution. This is especially surprising if you played Trails in the Sky, first remake, which came out last year, as that game takes place in the year 1202, and Trails Beyond the Horizon in 1209. During Estelle and Joshua's adventure, their world felt like early 1900s Europe with a blend of new technology being discovered, such as airships and orbital power. A mere 7 years later, in 1209, Horizon shows us a mech being launched into space and a spaceship about to take off soon after. Horizons isn't just advancing the plot, the game is accelerating Sumerian civilization at a rapid pace. Heck, one of the bosses is even a streamer, and they have their own streaming lingo.
It's Euroboros, Myroboros, Ouroboros. Okay, we're gonna kick this off with a major announcement. Save it for later? Yeah, no, Lamau.
I think this fast, rapid technology happening in the Calvard arc is one of the most underrated themes in the entire Trail series. that I may go over in a future video, since the rapid 7-year technological advance can actually be explained. While I did thoroughly enjoy Trails Beyond the Horizon, it's actually shaping up to probably be one of my favorite games in the series. I do have some critiques about the game and what could have been better. So, without getting to any spoilers, here's what I would have changed. First, more bonding events should have been mandatory quests rather than just simple side stories. And a prime example is Elaine's second connection event, which does touch on the romance angle between her and Van. Now, her event is optional, but sorely needed to be a mandatory quest during the game, as it explains so much between the two, a bit about Van's backstory and why he likes sweets, and of course, in the two's past relationship. Some of Anya's story should have been more emphasized as well, as she's one of the main stars of the game. A post-game epilogue section, once you beat the game, would have been great, which Trails Through Daybreak 2's Marching Garden and Trails into Reverie's Reverie Corridor both had. The game could have used a lot of trimming during the first couple acts in Van's path. There was just too much padding for a lot of Van's route. Now I do understand that you need some of the 4 SPGs in the game to distinguish between the more slice of life and important story bits, but I'm thinking a lot of the standard fetch quests for RPGs could have been replaced with either 4 SPGs that were focused on developing some of the characters in the cast, both main and side characters, or just having more story itself. By doing this, not only is the majority of the fluff removed and the pacing of the game a lot better, but these new quests would have a lot more meaning in developing certain characters as well as moving the story. Fortunately, the later acts of Van's path were a lot better. Now, the ending. The cliffhanger at the end of Trails Beyond the Horizon genuinely dropped my jaw. And that's saying something. If you've been with the series long enough, you know that a cliffhanger is coming. I expected a twist, but even my predictions couldn't have seen what actually happened. So yes, to answer the question I posed at the start of this video, Trails Beyond the Horizon is the payoff game for the Calvard arc and arguably for the series as a whole. The characters are great, the rich lore is still very much intact, and most importantly, the story moves. Real stakes and real consequences. We're finally caught up to Japan. No more waiting years behind. We're all in the same boat now, equally desperate for Horizon 2. And trust me, after that ending, desperate is exactly the right word.